Hey everyone, all right, we're doing notes 3, so we're still going to be applying our steps of solving equations and steps for graphing inequalities, so we can take a look at some of these real world scenarios. So helpful reminders that we have down here, read carefully and underline keywords. You can also highlight, so make sure you're reading carefully and you're underlining the keywords for your problem so you can set up the appropriate inequality or equation. Um, writing a let statement, if you need to, let x, let x equal something, you can write in your let statement. That'll be helpful. Determine what symbol you're using, and I'm going to put an equals in here as well because some of these problems we are creating equations. It's not just inequalities because inequalities and equations go hand in hand. So I'm adding that symbol in there because it's not just going to be inequalities. So then the fourth step, write and solve the inequality and your equations. Okay, so I want to take a look at a few of these. I want you to try to do number 1 on your own. I think you guys can do that, so go ahead and do that now. All right, so number 1, you should have gotten answer choice 1. So I highlighted the portion that I thought was important, so hopefully you thought it was as well. So a child must be greater than or equal to 36 inches tall and less than 48. So 36 is included, the 48 is not. So when you set up your inequalities, it ends up, you can write it as 1. But even if you just did the two separate, at 36, you're shading this way. And at 48, you're shading to the left because of the symbols, and where they overlap is your solution set. Okay, so make sure that you understand why. If not, write down a question and we can talk about it together. So then I want you to go ahead and do number 2 on your own. You need to choose an answer choice that is modeling this statement. So go ahead and do that now. So for this one, I said answer choice 2, so let's talk about these. So the sum of 5 and 2 times p is at least 11. If you recall the other day when we talked about at least, it means at a bare minimum. So if we wrote this, we would have 5 plus 2p, but we would have a greater than or equal to because at a minimum, it would be 11. So that's why we said no on 1. And then for 3, 2 times p plus 5 is at most. That's our key word here. So just like at least, at most means it can be 11, but it has to be less than 11. So here we have a less than sign. We don't have an equal to. So that's why 3 is not an option. Okay, it can't be 11, but it can be less than 11. But at most, when you have the words at most, that means you have a less than or equal to. The product of 2p plus 5 is equals 11. So you should have answer choice 2. Okay. So number 3 is similar to one we did the other day, so I think you can do that one on your own as well, which is not a solution of the inequality. So go ahead, you can use either strategy that we talked about, either plugging it in or go ahead and solving and choosing what wouldn't work. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so I said answer choice 4 would not work because the inequality I get is this x is less than or equal to 4. So 0 works, 2 works. Because it's equal to, 4 does work. So 5 is bigger than 4, so that does not work. Okay. So I want to take a look at number 4, which statement can be modeled by x plus 3 is less than or equal to 12. So I want you to read through the scenarios and pick one that you think would be the best representation of this inequality. So go ahead and do that now. So I said answer choice 1. So answer choice 1, it says Sam has 3 bottles of water. And together, Sam and David have at most 12 bottles. Remember, at most is going to give you that less than or equal to. So for number 2, Jenny has 3 cookbooks. And to earn a prize, she must sell at least 12. So this is, at the same x plus 3, and you do have the 12, but this at least here means she needs to sell at a minimum 12 cookbooks, but she could sell more. Okay, so that's why 2 is gone. So Peter has 2 baseball hats. Peter and his brother have fewer than 12 baseball hats. So the main thing is here is that that's not even the right number. That would be x plus 2. Fewer than would be a less than, but we don't even have the right numbers in here. Okay, so that one needs to go away because we don't even have the right numbers for the expression. So then the last one, Kathy swam 3 laps in the pool this week. She must swim more than 12 laps. So more than is a greater than. So she can't just swim 12. She has to swim 13. Okay, so it's a greater than, so you have x plus 3, your greater than, and your 12. So not even the same thing. So 4 is gone. So now the sum of a number and 81 is greater than the product of -3 and that number. What are the possible values for the number? Okay, so we do have a statement in here. So the sum of a number and 81 is greater than the product of -3 and that number. So sum of some number that we don't know. So sum is addition. So x plus 81 is greater than the product, which is multiplication, -3 times that number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my steps for solving equations. I'm going to move my x over because if you remember, subtracting is the inverse of adding. And bring that down. So remember, I'm a left sider. I like my inequality and my variable to face the way we read, left to right. I think that's easier for you guys as well. I'm going to go ahead and divide my -4 over because we are multiplying, so we're going to divide to get rid of it because they are inverses. So then we're dividing by a negative, which means I have to flip my inequality symbol. And so 81 divided by -4 is -20.25. And so let's look at our question again. What are possible values for the number? So it's a greater than symbol, not an equal to. So numbers that are bigger than -20.25. So you could say like -20 would go in there, -19 would go in there. But any number that is bigger than that. It can't be equal to -20.25, but it has to be bigger. So all these are bigger because they're closer to 0. Okay, so we could have -18. You could even say -5. Okay. So Keith and Michelle went out to dinner. The total cost of the meal, including the tip, came to $57.70. If the combined tip came out to $9.60 and each friend spent the same amount, how much did each friend pay, not including tips? So this is going to be an equation, just FYI. I told you we're going to have both equations and inequalities. So I want you to go ahead and write your equation and solve for this one, for Keith and Michelle. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so for Keith and Michelle, the equation I got was 2x plus $9.60 equals the total $53.70. So when you do your orders of operations and solving for equations, you move the 960 over using subtraction, divide by your 2, you should get $22.05. That's how much each friend paid. So make sure that when you're looking for your information, you're including everything you need for your equation. So each friend spent an equal amount, so they split the bill, and then they did a combined tip of $9.60. So let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 is very similar to what we just did. It is going to be an equation, so I don't want you to get confused that you need to create some sort of inequality. You are going to have an equation here, and we're doing a combination of these things today. So I want you to go ahead and do this one on your own. I'm going to leave this up here so you can see what we did for the previous one and use that one to help you. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. All right, so this is the equation that I got. So 3x plus 175 equals 490. So I want you to go ahead and check what you have. I pulled the total 490. That's how much the camera costs. He already saved $175, and he wants to save for 3 more weeks. So 3 times however much his X amount would be. So X would be the dollars he needs to save. So let X equal the dollars needed. Okay. And then you add that to what you have, and you should be able to get a total for the camera. So I want you to go ahead and solve for your equation. So go ahead and do that now. So when you solve the equation, Jason needs to save $105 a week so he can get the camera in 3 weeks. Okay, so moving on to the next page, we have one, I'm going to have you cross out number 5. Okay, so go ahead and do that for me. Cross out number 5. And so I want to take a look at number 4. Adrienne works in New York City and makes $42 per hour. She works in an office and must get her suit dry cleaned every day for $75. If she wants to make more than $260 a day, at least how many hours must she work? Okay, so we have this keyword at least. Okay, so that should tell you inequality. At least we've talked about is a greater than or equal to, because they need to get a bare minimum of that number or their total. They can get more than that, but they need to get the bare minimum of that number. And here that bare minimum is $260 a day. Okay, so if she wants to get $260 or more, she needs to work at least how many hours? So then we need to set up the left side. So she makes $42 an hour, and she has to get her suit dry cleaned every day. So we're finding out the cost per day. Not the cost. We're finding out her hourly, how many hours she needs. I'm sorry, I had a massive moment. So we're going to let X equal the number of hours she needs to work. So she makes $42 an hour plus getting her suit dry cleaned that day. This is just the total hours for the day. We're going to go ahead and solve. So we're going to move our 75 over. Okay, so you do that using subtraction because we are adding it. So when you subtract it, you get 185 on the right side. Divide both sides by 42. That's how much she makes an hour. And then we should get X needs to be greater than or equal to 4.4 hours. So she needs to work at least 4.4 hours. Can she work more than that? Yes. She cannot work 4 and meet her goal of $260 a day. She has to work more than 4. She has to work more than the 4.4. Okay, so I want to go down. I want you to do number 6 on your own. So go ahead and read it to yourself. Underline, highlight, do everything you normally need to do. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, so this is what I set up. You might have something different, and that's okay. Because you can do this problem without setting up an inequality, and that's totally fine. So I set this up. This is the check that we were writing, and then the minimum balance, and it has to be greater than or equal to the balance we already have. So when we move everything over, we get negative $15.50. X has to be greater than or equal to that. So the deposit, the money we need to put in to our account, we need to deposit $15.50 to our account so that the bank won't charge us money. And we can talk about that one more in class because that does happen very frequently, and it's a good financial literacy lesson for us to talk about. So if you have questions of why that is, please let me know. If you set it up a different way, let me know. But other than that, have a good day.